Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The wind howled like a beast as Dr. Alex Reed stood at the edge of the crumbling observation deck, staring into the distance where the horizon was no longer visible. The storm had swallowed it whole. He could feel the vibrations beneath his feet, the sheer force of the winds threatening to tear the city apart. He tightened his grip on the steel railing, knowing that in just a matter of hours the storm would reach landfall and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. For weeks, Alex had been tracking these storms. As a meteorologist with the Global Weather Monitoring Center, he had seen every kind of weather anomaly imaginable. Tornadoes, hurricanes, typhoons, he studied them all, but this was different. The sheer scale of the destruction, the speed at which these storms formed, was like nothing he'd ever seen. Cities were being flattened as if they were nothing more than sandcastles in the path of a tidal wave. And yet, the patterns didn't make sense. There was something off about the data, something he couldn't shake. He took a deep breath, pulling away from the railing as the sound of approaching footsteps broke through the deafening roar of the wind. His colleague Sarah hurried up to him, her face pale beneath the harsh lights of the observation deck. "Alex, it's still happening again. Tokyo, it's been hit." Alex clenched his jaw. Another city gone. Another tragedy that could have been prevented if only people would listen. He turned to face Sarah, her wide eyes filled with a mix of fear and disbelief. "How bad is it?" She swallowed hard, her voice shaking. "The storm hit faster than expected. There was no time to evacuate. Millions are gone." Alex felt a cold knot form in his stomach, and the pattern. Sarah handed him the latest data on a tablet, her hands trembling. He scanned the information, and there it was again, that same strange anomaly. The storm had formed too perfectly, too quickly. It wasn't too random. It wasn't natural. "We need to warn the others," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "We need to tell them what you found." Alex shook his head, frustration boiling over. Listen. "I've tried. They think I am crazy for even suggesting that this isn't natural." Sarah's eyes darkened with determination. "Then we need proof. Real proof. We can let this continue." Alex stared at the screen, the digital image of Tokyo's skyline now, just a ghost beneath the swirling mass of the storm. "There's something I've been tracking," he said slowly, his mind racing. "The storm formations, they were originating from a single point in the middle of the ocean." Sarah says, brow furrowed, "But that's impossible. There's no system out there that could cause that." Unless Alex hesitated, the thought forming in his mind like a dark cloud, unless it's being created. Sarah blinked. "Created? You think someone is doing this on purpose?" Alex nodded grimly. "We need to dig deeper. There's something more going on here, something they were not telling us." 2 days later, Alex found himself sitting in a cramped diner in the middle of nowhere, his hands wrapped around a lukewarm cup of coffee. Across from him sat the one person he thought might have the answers. Dr. Evelyn Cole, his former mentor and one of the leading experts in climate science. Her sharp eyes studied him from over the rim of her coffee cup, and for a moment, the old familiar tension between them resurfaced. "It's been a while," Evelyn said, setting her cup down with a quiet clink. "I didn't think I'd hear from you again." "I wish this were a social call," Alex replied, pulling a folder from his bag and sliding it across the table. "But I need your help. I think there's something big happening, and I am running out of time to figure it out." Evelyn raised an eyebrow, flipping open the folder and skimming through the data. "Storm formations, wind patterns. This looks like a weather anomaly." "It's not," Alex said, his voice low. "Look at the origin points. Every single storm, starting from the same location." Evelyn's brow furrowed as she examined the data more closely. "That's impossible." "Exactly," Alex said, leaning forward. "Unless someone is controlling it." Evelyn's eyes widened. "You were not saying—" "I am," Alex interrupted. "Do you remember Tempest?" Evelyn sat back in her chair, her face going pale. "I thought that project was shut down. Climate warfare, ... It was banned years ago." "It was," Alex said, "but someone has reactivated and they were using it to wipe cities off the map." Evelyn's fingers tightened around the edge of the folder. "If you were right, this could be catastrophic." Tempest wasn't just a theoretical project. It was built, tested, and if it's been reactivated, millions will die. Alex finished for her. Evelyn's mind raced. "But who would do this, and why?" "That's what I need your help to figure out," Alex said. "I've been trying to trace the source, but I am running out of leads. You have connections, people who know things." Evelyn hesitated, her eyes flicking toward the window where the wind had begun to pick up, rattling the glass. If Tempest has been reactivated, it's only a matter of time before the next storm hits. We don't have long. Alex nodded, which is why we need to move fast. I need access to classified government files, encrypted communications, anything that can point us in the right direction. Evelyn sighed, rubbing her temples. I'll make some calls, but Alex, you need to understand, if we recut digging into this, we'll be labeled as traitors. You could lose everything. I've already lost enough, Alex said quietly. I can tell I stand by and watch this happen. Evelyn studied him for a long moment before nodding. All right, but we do this my way. By the next morning, Evelyn had secured access to a hidden network of government files, a web of secrets that Alex could never have breached alone. The information came in waves, encrypted messages, surveillance footage, classified reports. And there it was, Tempest, a climate weapon designed to manipulate weather patterns on a massive scale. Originally conceived as a defense mechanism, it had been shelved after international bans on climate warfare. But someone had reactivated it, and now they were using it to hold the world hostage. Alex and Evelyn worked tirelessly, tracing the digital breadcrumbs back to their source. It wasn't too long before they found the connection, a defense contractor named Titan Industries, known for their black ops projects and their willingness to do whatever it took to get ahead. And at the center of it all was one man, Jacob Sinclair, CEO of Titan Industries and the mastermind behind Tempest. He's playing both sides, Evelyn said, her voice tense as she stared at the data. He started using the storms to destabilize governments, forcing them to buy his protection against the very disasters he set creating. Alex shook his head in disbelief. He sent a madman. He's more than that, Evelyn replied. He's sent dangerous, and if we don't stop him, the next storm will be even worse. They stared at the screen, where the next storm's trajectory was being plotted in real time. It was massive, bigger than anything they had seen before, and it was headed straight for Washington. Alex's pulse quickened as he and Evelyn stared at the storm's projection. The sheer scale of it was staggering, a swirling mass of destruction that would obliterate anything in its path. Washington, D.C. wasn't just the capital of the United States, it was the epicenter of global politics, housing not only national leaders but also foreign diplomats and critical infrastructure. The implications were clear. The entire world would be thrown into chaos. We have to stop this, Alex muttered, running his hands through his hair in frustration. Evelyn's fingers moved quickly over her keyboard, scanning through files and encrypted communication. There's only one way we can stop it. We have to shut down Tempest directly. It's not just a matter of hacking into it remotely. This system is deep buried in layers of security protocols. So what do we do? She looked up at him, her expression grim, tricky. We go to the source. Alex's heart sank. He knew what she meant. The source was Titan Industries, hidden in a remote offshore facility that was notoriously secure. It was practically a fortress. Breaking into it wasn't just dangerous, it was suicidal. But they had no choice. The storm was already forming and they had only hours left before it hit. Evelyn wasn't wasting time. She was already calling in a favor from an old contact. Within minutes, they were en route to a nondescript airstrip where they met up with Nathan Hale, a former military officer turned counterintelligence agent. Nathan had the connections, the skills, and the knowledge to get them inside the facility. He also had his own score to settle with Sinclair, the man who had ruined his career by burying him in a scandal years ago. Nathan's arrival wasn't particularly friendly. He had the sharp, cutting gaze of a man who had been burned too many times and was now operating purely on survival instinct. His gruff demeanor softened slightly when he looked at Evelyn, whom he clearly respected. But to Alex, he offered nothing but cold stare. You were the meteorologist, right? Nathan said flatly as they boarded the small, unmarked vessel that would take them to the facility. Yeah, Alex replied, trying to ignore the undercurrent of disdain in Nathan's tone. Good. Stick to reading the clouds and let me handle the rest. Evelyn shot Nathan a look. He's more than that. Nathan, he says, the reason we know what's going on. Nathan grunted but said nothing more. The boat sliced through the dark waters, heading toward the storm brewing on the horizon. The wind had already picked up, the waves crashing violently against the hull. Time was running out. The facility loomed ahead like a dark steel monster rising from the ocean. It was massive, reinforced with concrete and surrounded by a perimeter of guards and drones. Getting in would be impossible, at least for anyone without Nathan's expertise. As they approached, Nathan worked quickly, using an old access code from his military days to slip past the facility, sell outer security. It wasn't a flawless plan. They would only have a short window before the system caught on to the breach, but it would have to be enough. Once inside, the atmosphere shifted. The sterile, cold interior of the facility felt like a different world cut off from the chaos outside. The whir of machinery and the faint hum of power generators were the only sound. Alex felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. They were on borrowed time. "Stay close," Nathan muttered, leading them down a series of narrow, metallic hallways. He had memorized the facility's cell layout, and his steps were precise, confident. They passed several armed guards, ducking into alcoves and side passages whenever necessary. The storm's rumble grew louder, and Alex's stomach churned. He could feel the pressure building both inside and out. The control center was at the heart of the facility, and getting to it would require a direct confrontation with Sinclair's security forces. They didn't have the luxury of sneaking around forever. Nathan signaled for them to halt just outside the control room entrance. He glanced back at Alex and Evelyn, his eyes hard. "Once we go in, there's no turning back. We take Sinclair down, or we don't come out at all." Alex nodded, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had never been in a situation like this before. His life had been defined by data science and prediction, but now he was standing on the edge of something far more dangerous, far more real. Nathan kicked open the door and chaos erupted. The room was filled with technicians and guards, all caught off guard by the sudden breach. Nathan moved swiftly, disarming 2 guards before they even had time to react. Evelyn rushed to the main console, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she attempted to access the system. But Sinclair was waiting for them. From the shadows of the control room, Jacob Sinclair emerged, his face twisted in a smirk. He was tall, imposing, dressed in a sleek, tailored suit that seemed out of place amidst the industrial environment. His eyes glinted with a dangerous mix of arrogance and madness. "Dr. Raid, Dr. Cole," Sinclair said, his voice smooth and taunting. "I must say I am impressed you made it this far, but did you really think you could stop me?" Nathan moved to strike, but Sinclair's security forces were quicker. Armed guards flooded the room, weapons raised, and for a moment, it seemed like all hope was lost. Alex's mind raced, trying to think of a way out, but it was Evelyn who acted. She had managed to gain partial access to the Tempest system, and with a few keystrokes, she triggered an emergency override. The storm generator powered down slightly, its readings dropping. Sinclair's darkened. "Do you even know what you're redoing?" Sinclair hissed. "Are you retampering with forces you can't? You're replaying God with people's set lives," Evelyn shot back, her voice filled with fury. "Sorry, this ends now." But Sinclair wasn't done. He reached for a hidden control on his wrist, activating a secondary fail-safe that reactivated the storm generator at full power. The room shook violently as the entire facility responded to the surge of energy. The storm outside intensified, winds howling with renewed fury. Alex's heart pounded as the realization hit him. They were out of time. The storm was going to hit, and nothing they did now could stop it. But Nathan had one final move. In the midst of the chaos, he saw the only way out the generator side power source. He lunged for it, taking out several guards along the way, but the cost was high. A shot rang out, and Nathan collapsed to the floor, blood pooling beneath him. "Shut it down," Nathan gasped, his voice weak but filled with urgency. Evelyn acted quickly, her hands moving faster than Alex had ever seen. With one final command, she disabled the entire system, plunging the facility into darkness. The storm generator whined to a halt, and for a brief moment, there was silence. Sinclair stared at the now dark control panels, his expression one of disbelief. "Are you fools? Do you even understand what you've done?" Evelyn stepped forward, her voice cold. "Pray, we saved the world from you." Sinclair made one last, desperate move to activate a backup, but Alex was quicker. He slammed his fist into Sinclair's jaw, knocking him unconscious. The storm outside was subsiding, the wind slowly dying down. It was over. As Alex and Evelyn dragged Nathan's injured form out of the control room and onto the deck, they watched as the storm clouds began to clear. The devastation was immense, but they had prevented the worst. The world would rebuild. Nathan's breath was shallow, his strength fading. "Sir, you did it," He whispered, a faint smile on his lips. He actually did it. Evelyn knelt beside him, her face tight with grief. "Sir, we couldn't have done it without you." Nathan's eyes closed, and the weight of his sacrifice hung heavy in the air. As the sun broke through the clouds, Halleck stood in silence, staring at the horizon. The storm was gone, but the cost had been high. He knew that the truth about Tempest and Sinclair would come out eventually, and when it did, the world would have to reckon with the reality of climate warfare. But for now, the storm had passed.